Hey everyone, welcome back to my sidechaining techniques course in Logic Pro. In this video, I'm going to show you a really simple trick that I use all the time to carve out and make some space or make some room for your vocals, whether that be just a single lead vocal that needs a little help or an entire stack full of all of your vocals. So if you're the type of person where you mix with the vocals way on top of the mix and all of the instruments are sort of secondary to the vocal, you're probably not going to have this issue. And if you are working on a track that's not very dense or doesn't have a lot of instruments, you probably won't have this issue either. But if you have a lot of instruments or you like to keep your vocal a little more reserved, almost at the same level as all the other instruments, this can be really helpful, especially when you get closer to the end of a mix where you've got like a limiter on there, you've maybe got your mastering chain on there, and the vocals are just not cutting through, and you don't want to just pull the volume up on them because you don't want them to be that high in the mix. So since the last time we looked at this project, I've sort of rebalanced the guitars, electric piano, and organ so that they're a little more toward the front. In the previous examples, I had them pulled way back. I want to hear the guitars. I want to hear the keyboards. I don't want them to just be these secondary background elements. But the problem is they are clashing with the vocals at some spots. Not really bad like you'd get in like a dense rock mix, but they are kind of getting masked by the keyboards and guitars here.
In the shadows, I can't forget you. Oh no, the story we've told, the memory unfolds. Every whispered word was a moment stolen. The melody echoes.
Yeah, so the louder spots are okay, but the softer spots still not quite coming through at this volume level, especially with the guitars and keys pulled up a bit. So essentially what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have the guitars and keyboards duck just a tiny little bit every single time the vocal is singing. Now, you can do this with the bass as well. I almost never do it with the drums, but it's more or less the rhythm instruments, the mid-range instruments that are kind of in the same frequency range as the vocals. So what I'm going to do here is I already have the guitars in a stack, but in newer versions of Logic, you can put stacks inside of other stacks. So let's add all of these to a new stack. I'm going to make these a summing stack, and I'm just going to call this Rhythm Instruments. On that stack, I'm going to add the compressor. And in the compressor, I'm going to dial in like a really, really gentle compression setting. So let's turn off auto gain, no makeup gain. Let's use like a longer release, a little longer tack, maybe a little softer knee. Let's actually pull down the threshold and ratio almost to nothing at this point. And then for our sidechain input, we're going to select our vocal track. Now, this could be a single vocal like I have here, or this could be an entire vocal stack with all of your vocals inside, backing vocals, verse, chorus, bridge, pre-chorus, all of the sections of your song. So it is very possible that your vocals could all be in a stack as well. And if they are, you're going to select that stack under bus here, not under audio. Okay, so now what's going to happen is the vocal itself is actually going to be applying the compression to the rhythm instrument stack. Let's see how much compression we get as is.
In the shadows, I can't forget you. Oh no, the story we've told, the memory unfolds. Every whispered word was a moment stolen. The melody echoes.
Yeah, and we don't want a lot of compression. Like if we do too much of this, it's going to be a really noticeable ducking effect. That's not what we want. We want maybe 1, 2, or 3 dB tops of compression when the vocals are singing.
In the shadows, I can't forget you. Oh no.
Yeah, that's way too much. Now I'm going to go into the sidechain options here, and you might think because this is a vocal that you would want to use RMS, but with peak, you're actually going to get a more consistent result because we're assuming here that the vocals already have their own compression on them. So even though the waveform peaks are all over the place, the actual signal coming out of the vocal track or out of the vocal bus is going to be pretty uniform with all of the stages of compression we've already added to that. So with RMS, you may find with the loud notes, you get more ducking, and with the softer notes, you get almost no ducking or very little ducking. But with peak, in this case, we're going to get more consistency.
In the shadow.
We don't want 10 dB, so let's pull that down. Just keep in mind, too, with peak, you're going to have to use a lower compression setting, a lower ratio, because you're ultimately going to get more compression with peak rather than RMS here.
In the shadows, I can't forget you. Oh no, the story we've told, the memory unfolds. Every whispered word was a moment stolen. The melody echoes inside my heart like the beat of a drum.
See how we're getting pretty consistently like 2 to 3 dB of compression for every vocal phrase? That's what you want here. And if you want less than that, you can even pull the ratio down a little bit more. And so the goal here is, again, for this not to be super noticeable, you want it to be transparent, but we just want these other instruments to come down just a hair every time the vocal is singing. And so in other areas like here and over here, where the instruments are playing by themselves, or maybe you've got some longer gaps in between your vocal phrases, your rhythm instruments are still going to be where you want them in the mix. Again, they're just going to be ducked down by a hair when the vocals are in. Let's see what this whole thing sounds like in the mix, and I'll play the whole thing. And then we'll talk about bringing in the filter as well. It's a totally optional step here.
Shadows, I can't forget you. Oh no, the story we've told, the memory unfolds. Every whispered word was a moment stolen. The melody echoes inside my heart like the beat of a drum. I can't let go, dreaming you were still right here with me.
Yeah, this is a trick I use on almost every mix I do. I may not go for a full 2 or 3 dB of reduction. Sometimes it's only like 1 or 2 dB. Just roll down your ratio to a much lower value. Okay, so let's try this out again, but let's bring in our detection filter. And so if you don't want the more transient areas of the vocal to trigger the compression, what you can do is you can filter out those elements using the detection filter. So similar to the last 2 videos where we sort of isolated the low frequencies, we can do the same here with the vocals. So you can do this with either the low pass or band pass. I'm going to use the low pass. Let's just listen to that sidechain input and get rid of all of the more consonant and more transient sounds.
In the shadows, I can't forget you. Oh no, the story we've told, the memory unfolds. Every whispered word was a moment stolen. The melody echoes.
Okay, so now if I go to on, only like the meat of the vocal, the body of the vocal is going to be applying the compression, not necessarily the more transient material. And so using this in conjunction with peak can get you a more consistent result.
In the shadows, I can't forget you. Oh no, the story we've told, the memory unfolds. Every whispered word was a moment stolen. The melody echoes inside my heart like the beat
Yeah, so every time the vocals are in, you're seeing pretty consistently about 1.5 dB of reduction. Again, it's almost imperceptible, but it creates a little bit more room for our vocals in this mix. And again, like I said, I use this trick in almost every mix I do, kind of around that level, around 1 or 2 dB of reduction. And it's an absolute lifesaver when you have a really dense mix, especially like really dense rock and metal mixes where the vocals or certain elements of the mix are not cutting through the rhythm instruments, especially like heavy rock rhythm guitars. And this isn't limited to just vocals. You can try this out on other instruments. You can have a guitar solo that's competing with rhythm guitar, and you can use the guitar solo as a sidechain compression source for the rhythm guitar. So when the solo's playing, the rhythm is kind of ducked a little bit. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please leave me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. As always, thank you so much for the support, and thanks for watching.